we have we have this gift that we're always able to find free food. I know for us tech managers,
Yeah.
there's always an event on site that we're able to find stuff.
Yep.
But you get fed. You come for the learning opportunity and the networking opportunity as well. So I mean, why not?
You're listening to the AV Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again to the AV Amplifier. If it is Wednesday, then you know your feed has been refreshed with new content, be it on your podcast platform, on YouTube, or right there home at higheredav.com. And this Wednesday is no exception. We have a great show for you today and a voice to bring to you that, quite frankly, I've been trying to chase for the show a little bit. He's been playing a little, hard to get. It was tough to make his deal, but we finally got the contract signed. So, welcome, Patrick. Thank you for being here. Would you please introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you very much, Ryan, for having me on the show. My name is Patrick Angielczyk, and I come to you from Hamilton, Ontario, in Canada, and I am the AV Technologist here at Mohawk College.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I think, I think because every once in a while you run into people and talk to people that you haven't really met before, and they'll talk about the show or they'll ask me about the show. But you like, I was at the Roadshow in Arizona. I had admittedly, and I talked about there, like, hadn't had a chance to really be involved in the planning of that. Chris at U of A is really doing the thing. So I was just showing up to help. Then all of a sudden someone taps me on the shoulder. I turn around and it's somebody from Canada all the way down in Arizona. You know what I'm saying? There for that. So let's start. And what it was kind of a cool way to meet you. And then not just a few weeks later, get to say hi in Spain. And so it's been really cool to have a little bit of conversation, learn a little bit about who you are, and then watch some of the things you're doing. So let's start with, why on earth were you, in January, not in Hamilton, Ontario, but in Mesa, Arizona?
Is it a safe answer to say just trying to escape the cold?
That is a very, well, that's why that's why a lot of people are in the Phoenix area at that time from everywhere, but yes.
So you just mentioned a name, Chris from the University of Arizona. There was the Arizona Roadshow in town, and Chris, being part of HETMA, invited myself and Mark Sear down to the Arizona Roadshow to check it out, because we wanted to figure out what we were supposed to do for the roadshow that just passed this week in Toronto. So we had the HETMA Toronto Roadshow up here in Toronto. It was a fantastic show. So we had a bunch of vendors that showed up to support the great cause. We had a lot of attendees. It was a great networking event. It was, the happy hour was a great networking opportunity as well for people that may have not been able to attend during the day. So to get back to the question, we were in Arizona kind of to spy on and learn about, what we needed to do up in Toronto. Arizona Roadshow was fantastic. We met a lot of fantastic people down there. I got a chance to talk to Mr. Ryan Gray and thank him for the great podcast that he hosts. And then Ryan gave me the opportunity to jump on the podcast with him right now. So thank you very much, Ryan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to be here. Yeah, I think now in year 2 of the road shows, there's a couple of things that, we've been able to level up on that. And that has been one more, not just local people having to figure stuff out on their own, but a little more central support and more travel so that HETMA members, can be at different places. We can have people doing future ones come in and then people fly up. So I know at yours, we've had, I saw Troy was able to make it. Aaron was able to make it. I know Chris was there. So that idea of not just the idea has always been the local community, a chance for the local people to come together, but then to be able to cross pollinate that with, in Arizona, people from Canada, right? In Canada, people from Chicago or Washington, D.C. and places like that. I think it's been, I really love how these events are progressing forward under, Chris's leadership, really.
Yeah. Again, just a few people to really thank. Chris Dietrich from the University of Arizona. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had the opportunity. Thank you to the host, Mark Sear at George Brown College, and Chris Hewitt as well was part of the organizing committee from the University of Guelph. So the four of us tag teamed the Toronto Roadshow. We had the help of HETMA from, Aaron was there, Troy was there, so we had their expertise on site as well. And like I said, I think it was a great success.
Sweet. So let's I'll ask you a two-barreled part then, since we're talking about the roadshow. And again, it's always bad hosting to ask people two questions at the same time, but I'm kind of curious how the answers to these might work with each other, which is first, I am fascinated because I haven't quite figured this out for myself yet, but why do you take the time and effort to plan something like this? Why is it important to you to volunteer your time to, you know what I'm saying, beyond having a full-time job, beyond having all the things going on in your life, give of your time and effort to planning events like the Roadshow, to travel down to see these other things, and to why is that something that you are willing to take your time to do? And then in your experience, see, that's the sort of thing I have to cut out because I can't even speak correctly. Then with that in mind, with the Roadshow happening, did you find that kind of did you find that it fulfilled or met expectations in terms of why it was important to you to do it in the first place?
So let's stick with the the planning of the roadshow and why the roadshow was so important for myself to bring it up to Toronto. For over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, we have two bodies here up in Canada, which is the colleges and the universities. And then there's some private colleges, private universities that kind of, do their own thing as well. But now more than ever, we're at the table talking together, right? So there was kind of that divide over this period of time. Universities would be doing their thing, colleges would be doing their thing, and now more than ever, we're at the table, we're talking about it all together. Like, let's put it this way: colleges are doing lectures, universities are doing lectures, universities are doing active learning, so are colleges. There's some things that may not kind of be the same. Like, colleges have a lot more hands-on learning versus the universities, where they may have more lecture-based. But that's not to say, there's some universities that also do lab work. So getting us all to the table and talking amongst one another is kind of the first step. And I think HETMA does this, they do this very well in the United States. It feels like everybody's, at the table, everyone's talking together, they're exchanging information, they're talking about designs that are working for them. Just a whole whackload of information that's shared amongst everyone, right? So it was very important to start getting all those colleges and universities together in one room, with some vendors to talk about, classroom technology and what we're using, what's working, what's not working. So it was kind of that first stepping stone to bring everyone together, and I think we did that very well. Remind me of the second part of that question, was why the volunteer part was so important. Honestly, I think the volunteering for things like this is just basically giving back to the AV community. There might be people that just might not be able to do what some of us do in giving back with volunteer work. It's just a great way to be on top and mentor and network with people. and then also, give back, make sure that, events like these keep going, because it's bringing us together. It's establishing the proper partnerships and relationships with our manufacturers and other vendors, integrators, you name it. So it's about giving back is the biggest thing, I would say.
That's it's awesome, and I love how that word community comes up so much in terms of AV. People will say AV industry, AV whatever, but it's again, it may feel unique, but it's like the industry as a whole, and in particular the higher ed vertical part of it, really does feel like a community in a way that is I don't, it just doesn't seem to be the same in other areas. So I'll just say thank you for doing that, and thank you for taking of your time to, like you said, give back to this community. Then at the roadshow, were there new connections you made, new people you met? Did you find that the experience there, were you able to get out of it for yourself what you hoped the attendees would get out of it, that you had planned for?
I think this industry is always evolving, and if I didn't learn something, I'd be lying. Because whether it's something from the manufacturers that's new and upcoming, whether it's a face that I haven't met before, definitely a learning experience. I had met and made some great contacts. I have the business cards from people that I have not touched base with yet, so I have to go back and kind of update my Rolodex and update the people that I've never met before. Kind of just email them and say, hey, we chatted at the show. The second thing is there's always new product coming out onto the market from our manufacturers. And, just even going by, I believe it was 34 or 35 booths that we had. And every single one of them had something that I haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. So I think it's great. You try and stay on top of these things as best as you can, whether it's with training, whether it's, dealing with your local sales reps. But then at the show, there's sometimes always something new and cool and exciting that comes out. I mean, like, look at, for example, ISC and Infocom, right? Even though salespeople are bringing the newest and coolest information and technology to you, sometimes they'll say, you got to come to Infocom to see the next latest and greatest thing, right? So definitely any sort of trade show that you go to, whether it's Infocom, ISC, the Hetmar Roadshow, we have a bunch of other smaller roadshows that come through Toronto. Get out there. Most of these events are free. Whether it's the networking piece, whether it's learning about gear, just, what's that saying? 90% of it is just showing up, or 95% of it is just showing up, right? Mm-hmm. So just showing up to one of these events, usually you'll get fed, you'll get, a bunch of information. Hey, AV guys love our food, right? So let's, we have this gift that we're always able to find free food. I know for us tech managers, there's always an event on site that we're able to find stuff. Yep. But you get fed. You come for the learning opportunity and the networking opportunity as well. So I mean, why not? Why not show up, right?
That's awesome. And so, is it too soon for you to say? For you to break the news now that there will definitely be a Canada Roadshow #2 next year? Or are you guys still in such a decompressed mode you can't even think about taking that on again?
I think there was already some discussion about that. It sounds like some schools out west maybe felt that they should be the next ones to have a roadshow. Nothing's really been determined or locations have been announced. But we'd be more than happy to provide our, kind of a debrief on, what we could improve on to the next hosting location or college or university, but it would really be on those folks out wherever the next hosting
Mhm.
college or university is. It'd really be on them to kind of piece it all together. But we'd be more than happy to sit down and chat with them on the next steps.
So I feel like you were playing coy, but you just confirmed they'll definitely be what, like Toronto and and like Calgary next year, both. You know what I'm saying?
I Yeah, who knows? Who knows what will happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I love it, and it's so cool that that the things that we've been doing in the States, there's so many people like Canada. That's an easy first step. Common language, very close. You know what I'm saying? Toronto is it's farther south than a lot of American cities anyways, but then now Europe and other places where where people like yourself are willing to stand up and say like, yeah, us too, we can do this, we can help both expand the global community and bring together our local community. It's just same thing for me. I love giving back. I love trying to find ways to do it, and there's nothing more encouraging than seeing people pop up and say, yeah, I can do that too. Yes, I want to do that also. And you're someone who it maybe it's just my perception, but seems like has sort of, burst onto the scene. And now all of a sudden you're everywhere. I'm seeing you on Ed Tech with Aaron, and really, getting your face and your profile, your name out there. So I want to go back a little bit then to say, like, as you're sort of bursting on, like, and I love to talk about it, but like literally bursting on the scene of people's attention, what does your story into AV and into higher ed look like? How did you end up in this kind of tech manager role that so many of us find ourselves in?
So it's funny, I would say by accident.
Mm-hmm. It's
I think that
the theme,
most of
isn't it?
us, yeah, and we were just chatting about this at the Roadshow. How did we end up in as tech managers in AV in higher ed? I started out, I went to Harris Institute in Toronto for audio engineering and production. Basically had kind of that, recording studio, live audio, you name it, kind of mentality. But I also had an interest in studio design, and I was kind of thinking about could I do studio design? Then I quickly realized a lot of people are starting to build their own studios within in their home. And then all of a sudden, I just found myself working for Hamilton Health Sciences, part of their AV, as an AV technician, part of their AV team. So what that meant was I was doing a lot of medical conferences, a lot of, video editing, photography, a lot of break fix stuff. And I started looking into like, what's actually driving this in the back end. I started looking at some of the manufacturers in the back end, and I was like, well, how can I learn how to do this? And I remember reaching out to one of the manufacturers and saying, hey, how can I learn about this? And right away they're like, well, usually it's an integrator that does this. It's like, okay, well, how can I become an integrator in-house? So I got the training for the products. I started learning about that stuff. And then I quickly started really getting my hands dirty on the integration side and on the control side. And it just so happened that after a few years there, I saw this job come up at Mohawk College, part of the audiovisual team. And I was like, hey, I'll give that a shot, not thinking anything of it. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to get that. And it just so happened that around in November, I got an interview, and just before the college went on Christmas break, I got a phone call saying you'll be starting January 9th. And 8 years later, I'm here as a tech manager. I dabble on, in a lot of different things, whether it's procurement, design, install, commissioning. AV, AV technologists, tech managers, whatever you want to call them, we wear multiple hats, right? So not only are we on the customer service side when things break, we're also planning and designing and installing and pulling cable, and the list goes on and on. And every single day there's new challenges every single day, but every day is something different, and that's what I love about this.
So I'll throw one other part about that because people so many like there's so many different ways people accidentally end up in AV, but kind of the similarity in it is that like, well, I accidentally ended up there, but once I was there, it scratched an itch. It gave me an opportunity to, like you say, wear many hats or do varied things or be involved in a way that, that kept me in it. And here I am 8 years later, in that same place. So the other question is, so that's how you ended up in AV. Obviously, that first position was at an institution of higher education, but you could do AV in a lot of spheres that is not higher ed. Why stay in higher education?
So one thing is that I think I've been coined a professional student by people.
Yeah.
I'm always taking some sort of course. So I'm in an institution of education, and I'm always learning from different faculty members, different departments. Always looking to learn. So let's take that outside of just the institution itself and look at the AV industry. I think it was Joe Way that
Oh,
coined
I'm
the
sorry.
term.
We don't quote Joe Way on the show.
Oh,
No, I'm just
I'm
kidding. Go ahead.
sorry. Joe Way coined, being a what was it, a certification hoarder, and I think that most of us are certification hoarders,
Yeah.
and learning all the time about what manufacturers or new standards or whatnot coming out of Avixa. We're always learning. So I hope I answered that question. I'm a professional student. I'm a long long term learner. So I think being in an educational institution is probably the best place for me.
I love that's it is a great answer, which is, when you've got the learning bug, then what it feels like to live in a learning environment every day, to work in a learning environment and to be putting your efforts towards other people's learning. Like, I don't know, it makes sense. And I totally understand that part of like, certification hoarding and that like and I won't monologue, but like I can't sit still without knowing like what's the next thing, be it a certification, be it a level. Like I cannot go get your doctorate out of my head right now. And it sounds like so much work. I don't actually want to do it, but like, I totally understand that drive to that. And it makes us so much better at what we do to always be, more informed next year than we were this year. So thank you for that message and being a leader in that area. You mentioned you name dropped Avixa in there. So two questions, which is one, and you mentioned you went out and got the certification. So folks who aren't watching on YouTube, you should go back on YouTube because Patrick has curated a good background for us here. But it includes, I see some certificates with that Avixa stamp on them. So you mentioned being a learner, but what do you see as the value of those types of industry certifications? And does that play into, your involvement or enthusiasm or willingness to be, what I think you are now vice chair or co-chair of the Rising Professionals Council?
Correct. Yeah. So I am the Avixa Rising Professionals co-chair. I'm in year 2. The two certifications that you see behind me is the CTS I for installation and the ANP. And it's funny because I was actually studying I've been studying for the CTSD this whole time. But you see this new shiny toy in the background, which was the ANP that was released last year, and you're like, I'll give it I'll give it a crack at it. Why not? I'll go try it. And that was the beta testing that they were doing. So I was very fortunate and had the pleasure to write it. I passed it, which great. Now I still gotta kind of loop back and get my CTSD. So I'd love to get all three certifications.
And just before you go to the
Certif
next part, are you
Mhm.
aware of the underground certification name for people who have the I, D, and ANP?
You mean like the three, like
Mm-hmm.
the tri certificate,
Yeah.
or three certification
Yeah.
people? I don't know if there's an official name for it. I wasn't
No,
aware of
no,
it.
no, no. It ain't official. It is underground, and we'll credit the. I think we can credit Mark Coxon with it, which is,
Okay.
and he made his own T-shirt. It was referred to as CTS-AF. So
I like
you know what I'm
it.
saying?
I like it.
That's
I
the
was not aware of that. See, I just learned something new.
that's what that's
So
it. It's
that
his.
is that is
I
awesome.
so I'm not sure if he's the one that gets to crown people, but that so I wanted like not to interrupt for the because the second part of that answer I really want to hear, but yeah, like it is rarefied air people who hold all of those certifications. So I have no doubt you'll be the next one. And that's awesome.
I hope so. We'll see what happens. So,
Okay.
so the certification part I think is very important because we start talking about standards and that we all do the same thing. These are ANSI accredited certifications that makes us aware of the standards that are out there. In higher ed, we actually have an AVIXA higher ed standard and document as well that we can follow. So we're not kind of reinventing the wheel or trying to figure out new things that have already been established for us. Um, and the way that I started looking into the CTS was I got involved with the Rising Professionals Council. There was a lot of talk about CTS, and as I had just mentioned, when I was at the hospital, I was looking at some of these certifications. I couldn't find anything at that time because I wasn't really looking for the right things. When I stepped into the higher ed realm, I quickly learned about AVIXA, the certifications that are available, and then again it comes back to this involvement in the industry. So I said, okay, what do I have to lose? We have this Rising Professionals Council, which at that time was called the Young AV Professionals, and I sunk my feet into it and started learning from people like Chris Hewitt, which is literally a neighboring school, and he was the co-chair at that time. So I
Yeah.
started picking people's brains in the council and started talking about, hey, what's the CTS certification? And they're like, it's something that you definitely need to have. It's going to separate your resume from a whole whackload of other people. Go out, get your CTS. And that's exactly what I did. I started prepping. I started out with doing the audio visual technicians course or bridging course through Avixa. Or I think it's called the AV Technologist bridging. I'm not sure on the title at
Yeah.
this point, but I started off with that. The next stepping stone was the CTS, and then I started, getting more into the manufacturer's training, and for our renewal credits. Then I started looking at the CTSI, ANP, and I just opened a can of worms, and it's been like that ever since, right? So, but I definitely want to mention that again, getting involved and giving back to your community, just by some of these councils that Avixa has. The Rising Professionals Council is a stepping stone for a lot of people. You might not know what you want to do in the audio visual industry. Um, Come chat with us, right? Come chat with myself or the other co-chair, Steven. Um, come chat with us. We'd be more than happy to get you on a call. Another great thing is if you're looking for justification to get involved, and your employer might say, well, why do you need to get involved in this council? Like, I don't see any benefit for you or whatever. We actually have what's called the justification letter or a doctor's note.
Yeah.
And basically what it is you can take this to your employer with, myself and Steven signing off on it, saying, this is beneficial for your employee to help them learn about the industry, get the knowledge, network with other people, the possibilities are endless, right?
That's awesome. I love it. And that it's such a cool thing to say. Like we know, like we're literally looking for young, like say young rising professionals. We're looking for people just making the entry. So we're going to be intentional about paving that road for them to be able to come in, right? Knowing that they're doing something for the first time. That's awesome. So this will kind of like lead us into the last part, which is people need to know how to get in touch with you. So you mentioned, talking with you or the other chair. If somebody really does want to get involved in the Rising Professionals Council, how should they go about doing that?
I think the best way is with our friend Google and type in Avixa Rising Professionals Council, and then the page will pop up. Our contact information is right there on the council's page. The justification letter is there, and we also have 2 documents there that are available for the rising professionals if they want to learn more about some of the disciplines or jobs within the AV industry. So they have the ability to get those 2 documents from there as well.
Sweet. We will link that page in the show notes for everybody, so don't miss it. And then how would people, if they wanted to get in touch with you or learn more about kind of you, your career, and build their network, how would they get in contact with yourself?
Absolutely. I think the best way is either through LinkedIn or through email is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
All right. And I'll link both of those in the show notes for folks as well. I would recommend, talk about a rising professional. If you're out there, get yourself hooked onto Patrick, because I think he'll just, maybe we can all hitch our wagon to your rising star and you can just take us all up a couple of levels. So,
thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to know you a little more and to say thank you for all you're doing to give back to our community.
Thank you for listening to the AV IT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.